After 1 week break, and yes, I'm back alive and kicking, it's time for another HACS video. Today we will be looking at three components. One is a front-end component, but it does have some prerequisites, and the other ones are integrations. So we will be restarting our Home Assistant. We'll start in a couple of seconds. Let's get started with the first one. You know, and I've shown this in a couple of videos already, I do love cameras. And I have a lot of them. Some of the cameras are smarter than the others, and if they have technology or AI inside of them, they can get automatically triggered if they see person, pet or a vehicle. But for others, there are some other options that you can also use too, which is topic of another HACS component we'll be looking at today. But what do I use? I use Snapshot. That means when the camera gets triggered, binary sensor inside Home Assistant changes from off to on. This then triggers the inside service or action called Snapshot. It creates a snapshot of the image from the camera, saves it locally, and then displays it inside UI. For example, as this one, where we have person images, animal images, and then vehicles, if the vehicles are captured. There is one HACS component that can improve on that. And today we are going to look at that one. It's called Advanced Snapshot for Home Assistant. What it does, it takes or replaces the built-in functionality with advanced functionality, where we can manipulate, where we can save multiple images, etc. etc. What do we do to install this one? Click on the link, open the link, and it should open the page where you can install this component. Click on Download. The latest version at the time of the recording is version 2025.2.3.3. Click Download, and since this is a component and not a card, we will need to restart our Home Assistant. Of course, you can do it any way you want. The preferred way for me is to go to the Settings, click on Repairs, and just click on Submit. Home Assistant will now restart. While Home Assistant is restarting, let's check out the documentation. Quick reminder, if you do end up installing this component, if you do end up using this component, don't forget to say thanks to the author by at least clicking on the star button so that the author knows that you are using and liking the component. Now back to the documentation. This component will create a new service call or new action. This one will be called Advanced Snapshot, Take Snapshot. If we compare it to the original one, this one, as I've said, allows you to manipulate the image that you want to get from the system. Let's go through each of the configuration options. First one, we need to specify camera ID. This is the camera entity name. Then we need to specify the name of the file for this specific camera. So for example, if it's front door, then it's frontdoor.jpg. For the backup, and yes, you can create backups. Why would you create backups? For example, if you have camera in front of your house and there is a lot of traffic, a lot of movement, a lot of captures, each new capture will override the previous one. When you create a backup image or backup capture, it will preserve all the previous images because it will create a file name by using the date and the time for each of the images. So each image will be unique and it will not be overwritten. Just be careful with the space you have on your drive and you should be good to go. Then you have option to crop the image by X and Y coordinates and also by width and height. Next option is to change the aspect ratio of the image. Do you want to add bar at the bottom of the image? Yes or no, or true or false. For text you want to add to left, middle or right. For example, front door, outside temperature pulled from a sensor, and then date and time. You can specify font, size, color, height, bar color and also bar position, which can be top or bottom. For the response you will receive success if it was successful, path for the image, backup path, original resolution, final resolution, and if there was an error or not. And that should be it. Then you can use this image here or this path here to display that image inside your UI or to send that image via the notification. Let's go to Settings, Integrations, Add Integration, type in Advanced, click on Advanced Snapshot, specify the folder name for the snapshots, folder name for the backups, and the font folder. Click on Submit, and this should be it. If we now go to the Developer Tools, Actions, type in Advanced, you can use the UI instead of writing everything up as a command and do it here. But of course you can also use this section inside your automations where you can once again specify everything that we talked just a couple of seconds ago. Select the camera name, For example, this demo camera, path. If you want to specify backup location, you can do it here. When you copy or create template inside the UI, it will automatically convert everything to the YAML. So that's why we do not have capability of continuing configuration through the UI. Click on Perform Action, and it's done. We should now have demo camera available as an entity. Let's go to Visual Studio Code. We have folder Snapshots, and inside folder Snapshots, we have demo camera JPEG, which if we display inside the UI, will display that same cropped image. Then we also have backup snapshots, where in the internal folder named by the today's date, it's 13th of March 2025, we have another image with a timestamp for that specific image. If you want to display it, go to Integrations, select Local File, and then just give it a name, for example this one here. Sorry, needed to change the path. It is configuration folder, then www, because that is the folder where this snapshot folder is located inside, snapshots, and then this file demo camera. Click on Submit. That's it. We have one entity, demo camera snapshot, and this is the snapshot or advanced snapshot that we just created. We have the image that has been cropped, we have name, demo camera, we have unavailable because that sensor is not available, and then we have today's date and also time. And that's it. This is a really awesome enhancement to the internal snapshots inside Home Assistant, and I will be replacing all of my current automations that are using traditional internal integration with this one here. And after you've added it as a local file, it is available as additional camera inside Home Assistant. You can of course also present it inside UI. If we compare it, we have the original image, which is a camera stream. In this case, this is a demo camera stream. And then we have this one here, which is an advanced snapshot. Don't forget to give this repository star if you did, and also if you are liking this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. It means a lot to author for star, but also receiving thumbs up or any of your comments. Thank you. Some time ago I created video on the LLM Vision, and at that time this component was brand new or almost brand new to HACS. Now this component has grown, but we will not be talking about this component, we will be talking about frontend or card that you can get for this LLM Vision. But on the other hand, yes, you also need to do some additional things. So for all of you, just a quick recap. If you want to install this component, you can check out the video I did previously, but it's more or less obsolete in terms of installation because the installation process is now more streamlined. So what you need to do, go to HACS, install this integration, restart your Home Assistant, go to Integrations page, click on plus sign, click on LLM Vision, and there you can select LLM providers, but some things that were not previously available. And for this component to work, you need to have LLM provider. This is whatever LLM engine you are using. Once again, I will be using OpenAI. Since I already have account, have credits there, it's easier for me to play with it. But if you're using local one, you can also use local LLM. Then we also need to set up events. This is something that's new. This is not a provider for the OpenAI or for the LLM Vision. Instead, this is a functionality that allows the system to store data about the already processed images. So for example, let's look at this one here. You have a lot of people coming and going to your apartment. One of the people that approached your front door was a postman carrying a package, and this one was recorded. 5 seconds or 5 minutes later, the another person arrived, then went outside, etc., etc. This previous postman image was lost in space. With the events, you are able to track all of the events that were triggered by LLM Vision. So for example, you can have everything in the calendar set up in a way that you can see how many events were there per day and what was the specific of that specific event. For example, there was a postman carrying a package. Then later on you can also use this to search. For example, you could ask Assist, was there a person delivering package today? When was the last time the postman was here? When was the garbage collected? Was the garbage collected yesterday? Etc., etc. So what you need to do, you need to go once again to Integrations, click on plus sign, click on LLM, and there select Timeline as a provider. This will be keeping timeline of all of the events. While you are already there, there is one additional functionality which is great, and it's called memory, but I will not be going into details. If everything was set up correctly, in the calendar section of your Home Assistant, you will have a new calendar. This one will be called LLM Vision Timeline. And here you will be having all of the events recorded by the camera and a specific description for each of the events. For example, these are the ones that I have for today. We now have set providers. These are the engines that we will be using to process the LLM Vision on. Then we have set up timeline, which allows us to keep everything in a timeline so that we know what happened and when it happened with the image and description from the LLM. But you also now have to enable blueprints if you haven't already done so. So click on the blueprint in the documentation, import the blueprint into your system, open the link, preview it, and import. You should now see something like this in the blueprints. The latest version at time of the recording was version 1.4.0. Click on it, and based on this blueprint, you can create your automations. It can be single automation for each of the cameras or each of the motion sensor triggered, or you can create everything in one. I'll click on three dots, create automation. Then we can customize this blueprint. This is still not the new component. We will install new component, but this new component requires some of the things working already on the system. If you want, you can enable this important experimental functionality. I wouldn't recommend so. Then if you have enabled or installed timeline, click on this one to toggle it, to enable it. If you want to use memory, remember that memory is used to enhance the functionality of LLM by giving certain images or people or pets or vehicles or registration plates the ability for system to know that this is something that you want to get notified especially on. So for example, if your kid is leaving or approaching home, if the registration plate is arriving or exiting the backyard, etc., etc. This is the prompt. I didn't touch it. I'm using it as is. And this is the notification devices. You can here specify any or all notification devices that you want to receive notifications on. So for example, my iPhone and my Google Pixel 7 Pro. Then you have option to specify if you want to have dynamic or consolidated notifications. Dynamic are great ones because they change depending on where the system is currently at with processing of the data. Consolidated are ones that you will receive with a bit of delay, but they will be more accurate. I am using dynamic ones. Camera entities, specify here all the cameras that you want to specify. So for example, let's use this camera here once again. If your camera is changing state from idle to recording when somebody is approaching the door, you need to specify it here. Or you can just remove it here. And instead of that, use any kind of motion sensors. For example, let's say that this door sensor will be the one that will be triggered. So anytime anyone opens the door, this can be motion sensor, presence sensor, door window sensor, smoke sensor, or whatever. And yes, as I said, then it will use this motion sensor to trigger this automation. If you want to have preview as a snapshot or you want to send live preview. Cooldown period, remember that you should be careful with the settings because each of the automation calls will be using your tokens. So be careful not to use 1 second or 5-second delay. The default one is 10 seconds. If you want to have tap to navigate, you can change it to, for example, whatever your Lovelace or dashboard number or path is here, and it will automatically allow you to go there when you click on the image. Duration for the recording, 5 seconds, maximum frames, 3 seconds, provider, which is something that you need to select from the list. We will go with the OpenAI one, and the model we will be using. For me, GPT-4o Mini. Then we have target width, maximum tokens, and the temperature. Leave this temperature at 0.1, it should be good enough. Click on save, give it a name, a description, category label, whatever, and this should be it. So finally now we can go and install what we wanted to install this video. This was just a recap of everything you need to have as a prerequisite for this component to work. After some events have been added to your timeline, LLM Vision Timeline, we can now add a front-end component because this is the missing link. And thanks to the author, we now have also option to install it. So topic of today's video is LLM Vision Timeline cards. And as always, if you do end up installing and using this timeline card, don't forget to say thanks to Valentin by at least clicking on the star if you already are not sponsoring him or using some kind of donation page to give donation to the author. So what is the LLM Vision card? If you are using LLM Vision, if you are using your either cloud or local providers to process images, if you're using timeline inside LLM Vision, we now have card that allows us to see all the events, click on them and get more data from it. As it says, prerequisite is LLM Vision, which we just installed, then we have timeline, which we just enabled, and then also blueprint or automation to add events to the timeline. Click on Open HACS repository, click on Open Link, and then inside Home Assistant, click on Add for this component to be added, click on Download. The latest version at time of the recording is version 1.4.0, download, and this should be it. Since this is a front-end component, we can just press on reload and everything will be ready for us to add this inside Home Assistant. Go to any page where you want to add this card, for example here on the camera page, click on Edit to edit image, and type in LLM for the LLM Vision Timeline card. Everything should be preset already. You can specify how many events you want to see in the calendar and what is the refresh interval. Click on Save. Now inside UI we will have a list of all the activities, or at least 5 last activities that we've seen. You can click on each activity and receive more information. If, for example, there would have been an animal, car, or person here, we would have a description. For example, person walking, carrying something, or person running away from here, or person approaching the camera, or something like that. But since these were false positive triggers, then we already have the image with description no activity observed. And this is it. And the last component for today is this one here. Is it payday? So if you are like me and you are very happy when the employer pays you something each month, then this component may be good for you. What it allows you to get a notification or to get warning or information where your next payday is. It's a simple component, it doesn't require any cloud services, it works fully locally, you do not need to provide any bank details because we will configure everything inside Home Assistant. If you do end up installing this small but really interesting integration, don't forget to say author thanks by clicking the star on his repository. First, we will need to copy the URL since this integration is still not officially part of HACS repositories, so we will need to add it as a custom repository. Copy the URL. URL will be down in a video description. Inside Home Assistant, click on 3 dots, Custom Repositories, paste the URL. For the integration, select Integration Type, click on Add, close it. We now need to type is it. For the is it payday, click on it, click on Download. The latest version is version 3.2.0, download, and we will need to restart our Home Assistant since this is not a front-end component, but instead this is the backend or integration. Settings, Prepare, Submit, and we need to restart our Home Assistant, which is done automatically for us by the Repair. After restart, go to Devices and Services, Add Integration, type in is it or is it payday, click on it and let's start with the configuration. We need to give it a name. Payday. For example, this will be my instance. You need to select your country. Why? Because it is calculating if the day is workday, if it's a weekend, or if it's a national or public holiday. Click on Submit. Then you need to specify the payout frequency. Monthly, every 28th, every 14th day, weekly. I have monthly payment. If it's last bank day, first bank day, or specific day. But this is where the country is also coming into play. So for example, in Croatia it's law that the employer has to pay employee between the first and the latest day is 15th. If the date, specific day, for example, let's say that this is the 10th for me, falls on a Saturday, Sunday or holiday, it will be moved one day after that one. So I will be selecting specific date, selecting here 10th. That means that my next salary will be on 10th unless it is a weekend or a national holiday. Click on Submit and this should be it. Finish, and we have one device with 2 entities. Is it payday, which it says it's off because yes, today is not the 10th. And when is the next payday? It is 10th of April. And 10th of April is not falling on the weekend or public holiday, so this will be the specific day that I specified. If it would be that one, it would then be moved to 11th, 12th or 13th. What you need to do now is create automation where this would be triggered, for example, at 8 AM, is it payday today, so that you can receive notification that today is your payday and that you will receive your salary. Or you can of course display this inside your UI. And inside your UI, you could have something like this. Is it today your payday? And when is your next payday? And that's it. This is it for this HACS video. I really do hope that you did find something interesting, be it these advanced snapshots, the LLM timeline card, or the information where your next payday is. If you have any kind of a comment or a question, you can always leave it down in a comment section below. If you did like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, because it really means a lot. And the views have been going down lately, not just because I had 1 week off due to surgery, but they just seem to be going down the hill. Of course, if you do end up using any of these components, don't forget to give it a star because the authors that way will know that people are liking and using those components. And before I end up the video, as always, I want to say thanks to all those wonderful people that are supporting me and that have become YouTube channel members. Thank you all for all of your support. But let's not forget each and every one of you who has watched, shared, liked or commented on my videos. Thank you. If you too want to support the channel, you can do so by clicking the join button down below and becoming a YouTube channel member for only €2 or $2 per month. Or you can go to my merchandise store and get something there. Last but not least, you can also send me super thanks and I will be super thankful for that. I will be seeing you next time. Until then, bye bye and have fun.